The Independent National Electoral Commission brought an application to vary the order which was made by the Court of Appeal on the 4th of March. Interestingly, the Court of Appeal this evening refused to vary that order. But what is worrisome to us is that the courts, in their own application, allowed them to reconfigure the BVAs machine, according to them, for purposes of the March 11th governorship election in the country. Well, INEC gave an undertaking that they have a back-end server that will protect every data. So we are going to hold them accountable.
See, it's embarrassing that INEC is doing this to Nigeria. I don't know what INEC intends to gain. Of course, you know, when you lie, you have to lie to cover a lie. So INEC went to court first to stop the court from permitting Peter Obi and Labour Party and of course the PDP to inspecting the election materials, including the BVAs, with the claims that you need 5 days to reconfigure your machine so before you can conduct the March 11 elections. And it's just 2 days to the elections. The court has granted INEC the leave now to be able to reconfigure their machines. But INEC is insisting that the reason why they are standing against that order is such that they can be able to conduct the March 11. And it's just 2 days, so it's not even up to 5 days. So why all this rigmarole? Why? It's no victory yet, of course. But there is a beer parlor understanding already that this is clearly orchestrated and there is a clear move to manipulate, to deflate, to deaccelerate, to spoil, to damage clear evidence that are supposed to have been used to reclaim this stolen mandate from the APC. I'm going to allow you to watch the video. And please, as you're watching this video, share this video. We must sensitize and encourage Nigerians to see it. Hit the like button that Facebook can recommend it for so many other places. Then make your comment, make your opinion count. Our thought and opinion matters in this matter. And I'm worried. Like the lawyer said, he's also worried that INEC is doing nothing. INEC is supposed to be an umpire, but then they have chosen to become a political party. Unfortunately, collaborating with APC for this nonsense. This is embarrassing, I swear. Share this video, make your comment, then like this video. Follow if you haven't followed me there. It's good night.
Okay, yesterday the Independent National Electoral Commission brought an application to vary the order which was made by the Court of Appeal on the 4th of March. Interestingly, the Court of Appeal this evening refused to vary that order. But what is worrisome to us is that the courts, in their own application, allowed them to reconfigure the BVAs machine, according to them, for purposes of the March 11th governorship election in the country. Well, INEC gave an undertaking that they have a back-end server that will protect every data. So we are going to hold them accountable. They said they have a back-end server. So we are going to hold them accountable if anything will happen to any of the information as contained in the BVAs machine. So that is essentially what transpired in court today. Well, we are not too comfortable with that. We are not too comfortable that the court will allow them to reconfigure. But the court has spoken and there's nothing we can do about it. We had expected that INEC should have separate BVAs for separate elections. Because when you allow them to reconfigure, how sure are we that the information stored already will be protected during the course of the reconfigure? So these are the fears we have. But the court had spoken and the INEC had given an undertaking that nothing will happen to the information stored in the BVAs machine. So that is our position.
Okay, the ruling of the court today, does it have any constitutional implications whatsoever in terms of looking at the law and the constitution itself? Do you think that this is a very good
made by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Abuja Division, delivering ruling on the application made by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to vary the orders granted the Labour Party and the People's Democratic Party on the inspection and forensic auditing of ballot papers as well as the bimodal voter registration accreditation system, BVAs, was used in conducting the Saturday, February 25 presidential elections. Well, the Court of Appeal has just delivered ruling on the first case, which is the one that involves INEC and the Labour Party. And of course, you're seeing it scrolling there on the bottom of your screen. And let's read it directly to you that the Abuja division of the Court of Appeal has granted the Labour Party and its presidential candidate, Peter Obi, permission to carry out digital and forensic inspection on the February 25, 2023 election materials. However, the prayer of Labour Party to stop INEC from further use of the machine was not granted by the court, as according to the court, it would affect the governorship and state house of assembly elections coming up this Saturday, 11th of March 2023. The order goes on that the INEC has been directed to avail a certified true copy of the data contained in the BVAs machine to the applicant, since it says that the data contained can be uploaded to the server and retrieved when necessary. So what that essentially means is that the INEC may still proceed with the conduct of the governorship election on Saturday, the 11th of March. Remember that there were fears that that election may be postponed if the court rules otherwise. But with the court ruling going on right now, of course, I've told you earlier that the one involving INEC and the Labour Party has just been settled. The court currently is still delivering ruling in the other application made by INEC against the application earlier granted to the PDP. So what essentially does all of this mean? Of course, let's keep you updated that we will be joining our correspondent in court later once the ruling is over, and of course take reactions from the lawyers who are right now inside the courtroom at the Court of Appeal here in Abuja. But let's have more expansive perspective to this. My colleague Teva Taf is here with me in the studio. Teva, it could have gone either ways.
Indeed, and it is almost like a long day wait for this ruling to come. And going by the reports that we also got on why it was delayed up till this moment, even with the ruling, Nigerians will still expect Independent National Electoral Commission to issue a statement or make a decision on whether Saturday's governorship and State House of Assembly election will go ahead. Recall that yesterday, the INEC lead counsel, Tanimu Inua, told the Court of Appeal that the Commission needs 5 days to reconfigure the over 170,000 BVAs machines. And if you need 5 days, and with this ruling you have barely 48 hours or thereabout to the elections, can the elections on Saturday still go ahead? That is a decision INEC needs to make at this moment.
Because it has 48 hours more or less.
More or
can
less.
It complete the reconfiguration within 48 hours? In fact, questions were being asked. The election, even if the order wasn't obtained as at last week Friday, could it have completed the reconfiguration of the machine within 7 days, because the order was granted on Friday.
On Friday, yes.
Between 7 days and when the election will hold. But another thing, Teva, is the fact that the court says, INEC, you are, whatever data is contained in the BVAs, you're uploading it to your server, so you can still avail the applicant these data. It takes us back to what happened in 2019 when we were told by INEC there was no server.
Yeah, indeed, 4 years of that. Recall that even in the petition handled by the tribunal at the time, and even the Supreme Court eventually, INEC insisted that there was no server, even though there were video reports of some of its officials saying there was a server, at the end. But the good thing is this time INEC says there is a server, and the court says, look, hence you have also told us that the data will be uploaded on that server. We can get back to it at the right time. But don't forget, it has also given INEC an order that should provide a digital copies of what the Labour Party and its candidates is requesting for.
This is getting more interesting. We shall be joining the Court of Appeal very soon, bring you live feeds from the Court of Appeal very soon. We have our reporter there. Okezie Uzo is there at the Court of Appeal. The lawyers will soon be coming out of the court to take reactions from the ruling of the court. There you have it, live feeds coming from the Court of Appeal here in Abuja. Apparently, the ruling has almost been completed. The first ruling taken was that in the motion filed by INEC against the Labour Party, and the second one was that filed by INEC against the People's Democratic Party and its presidential candidate. So there you have it. The court has ordered that, look, the Labour Party, INEC grants them all the materials they need, but the court stopped or did not actually say do not tamper with it. That takes me back to what the fears of Onyechi Ikpeazu, the lawyer for lead counsel for Labour Party, yesterday. He said when INEC moved the application in court, his fear was that the, in quote, reconfiguration that INEC intends to do would destroy relevant digital footprints and evidence which they need to prosecute the petition which they intend to file to challenge the February 25 presidential election. I do not know whether they would get any sense of satisfaction with the decision of the court, because they said, court, do not grant the application of INEC. If you do, the reconfiguration they intend to make may destroy relevant evidence which we need. But the court today has essentially not agreed or complied with the requests and prayers made by the Labour Party.
Indeed, Ikpeazu that you've mentioned, the good thing is he was part of the petition in Osun State. He represented the governor-elect, now Governor Ademola Adeleke. So I'm sure he was talking based on the experience of what he saw in the Osun State governorship election petitions tribunal. Don't forget that in that particular instance, the APC went to INEC. These certified true copies that were printed, the court is requesting, or has ordered INEC to print for the Labour Party, were printed. PDP went and got a different version of it, and then the tribunal had to request INEC to print directly from the BVAs machines, which is what they, and I'm sure that's the fear he was entertaining. Yeah. But what we have been told, INEC is now telling us that what was printed from the BVAs machines in the Osun governorship is now stored in the server and can be retrieved at any material point in time that is needed.
But what the applicants, when I've said the applicants here before the court, that's the Labour Party and the People's Democratic Party, what they're primarily concerned is the fidelity of that data. Yeah. In the process of transferring data from the BVAS machine into the server, would it stay the same? That is that really a legitimate concern? It is.
I think it's an issue of trust, going by the fact that, you know, INEC promised everybody in its guidelines that there will be real-time transmission of results from the polling units. That didn't happen. So everybody, almost everybody, let me not say everybody, almost everybody is apprehensive, you know, that look, this may not happen when it is needed. So it's an issue of trust now, as it were. But it appears the three-man panel of justices trust INEC enough to say, look, let's go ahead in this way. But I think this judgment is more, should I say political, more of in.
INEC filed an application seeking to vary those orders, particularly as it relates to the server, BVAS machine. Luckily for us today, the court refused to vary that order. That order is sustained and remains. In another ruling, the court was of the view that they are given the back-end server, which INEC undertook to provide to secure those materials, that order is partly sustained. Those initial orders are partly sustained. But in all, the good news is that the initial order of the court made on the 3rd of March, permitting Peter Gregory and Labour Party to inspect the facilities of INEC, including the BVAs machine, which they intend to use to prove their petition. Those orders are sustained.